I'm going to start with my basic bodice block. This is the front and this is the back. Okay, the front is a cowl neckline, and the cowl is not the regular cowl neck. It has a lot of fullness. The fullness starts from the shoulder area, so from the shoulder it just folds all to the front like this. I want it to be fitted at the waistline, so I'm going to try as much as possible to control the fullness. I would just want it to be on the upper part of my bodice alone. I don't want it to extend to the lower part, so that the waist can still be fitted. So now what I'm going to do is to close this dart first. So closing this, now I'm going to transfer it to somewhere else. So you can either extend the dart to your chest line area, just like this. The middle line, you extend it and then you open it here, so that when you close it you transfer it. Or you can just maintain your dart point there and then you open it here when you close it and transfer it. The implication is that once you transfer it here, you have a lot of a little bit of fullness around here. So if you don't mind, you can close there. But if you don't want any fullness up to this point as well, then you can just cut open up to this point, and when you open it here, you're going to close the dart. So here I'm just going to open this part up like this. Okay, I'll just experiment so that we can see what I'm talking about, and then I'm going to close this dart. So once I close this dart, now you can see now that it is transferred to this side. So again, if you want it to be around here, all you just need to do is to open here, and then once you close like this again, and you close this part as well, it's going to transfer here. So it is as simple as that. So if you want to transfer to this part, you are going to slash it open. So you're going to slash it open up to this point so that it can relax well. You can see that when I close this here now, because I did not close up to here, it's not going to relax well for me. So now after closing this, I'm going to hold it down with a masking tape. And after that, I'm going to create the fullness that I need on my shoulder area. So here on my shoulder point, you can measure what you have on your shoulder, and then you divide that into 3. Okay, or you can eyeball it. So I have 1, 2, 3. That's because I want 3 points. If you want yours to be more than this, you can make it more. And then here, like I said, I'm going to stop it on my chest line. So here as well, I'm going to partition this in such a way that I will easily connect them together. So you can see what I'm doing there. So after doing all of that, now I'm going to take my hole driller and then connect from my shoulder point to the center front area here where I partitioned. So here I'm going to connect like this, and this I'm going to connect to the tip of my shoulder. So you can see I have 1, 2 and 3. So this now I'm going to slash it open completely, spread it by whatever amount that you want, so that I can introduce your fullness, and then I'm going to gather it back to the shoulder point, so that the excess that I have is just going to fall over here. So if you want to hide a little bit of fullness to this side as well, so that it can open up, so you can just find a way to connect from here to your armhole area, just like this, and then you can slash that part as well. It's totally up to you. So now I'm going to grab my scissors, and then I'll go ahead and slash. So here, like I said, I'm going to cut it out completely. That is why I labeled it. Labeling it is going to make it easy for you to identify. I'm here to cut out my neckline, so I'll just go ahead and cut the neckline out. The neck width I used was 3 inches, and the depth was 3 inches as well. So now this part as well, I'm going to go ahead and cut. So for ease, I'm just going to open it a little bit on the chest. I'm not going to cut completely. I'm just going to cut to the tip. So now what I'm going to do is to go ahead and spread this. So this is how I'm going to spread this. I'll just spread this by around 1 to 2 inches, just like this. and then here you spread as much as you want, like I said. So when you are spreading it, you make sure that your shoulder point aligns. So you can just place like a ruler here to serve as a guide for you. So here I'm making sure that the tip of the shoulder aligns, and then I am spreading them as much as I want. So you can see what I'm doing here. So this is what I'll go ahead and do on a fresh paper. I just want this part to be showing so that we can see what I'm doing very well. So I've gone ahead to arrange it, you can see. So now the next thing is for us to match everything up. So this is the center front. I hope you can see that. So what I'm going to do now is to reconcile my center front. The middle part will guide you. Let me cut the under part so that we can see it well. So because this is the front and we're going to be placing our fabric on fold to cut, you have to make sure that the center front remains the same. Okay, this center front. So I just place my ruler there and then connect to the upper part for the center front, just like this. And then for the neckline area, this is my where the shoulder point, you can see number 1, this is where my shoulder stop. So here I'm going to place my ruler like this as well, and then connect like this for my shoulder. So you just make it straight, you ignore this part that you have. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do now is to reconcile the shoulder area together. So now you can cut your facing separately, or you cut your facing together with your cowl neck. It's easier to cut it together, that way you're not going to cut anything again. So for my facing, remember my neckline stops here. I'm just going to mark whatever facing that I want. It's going to drop inside the cowl. So I'm just going to mark around 4 inches for the facing. So that's going to start where my neckline stops. So here I'm just going to mark 4 inches upwards, just like this, and that's going to be for the facing for the front. So I'm going to connect like this. I hope you understand that. So like I said, now I'm going to come to the shoulder, and then I'll try to close the shoulder up. Okay, so now this is exactly how you're going to pleat it on your shoulder. So you make sure that everything matches up like this, and then we draw it. You don't want it to be curved. So now after matching everything up, I'm going to place my ruler and then draw out a straight line, making sure that the 2 points of my shoulder joins. Now I can release it. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and connect them. I've connected it together. The next thing to do now is to cut it. So when you are cutting, the facing is going to be inside, of course. So I'm going to fold in my facing. So I need just 4 inches, so I'll cut out the excess that I have here, because I don't need it. So I'm going to fold in the 4 inches facing, and then I'll cut out what I have marked here. So here I'm going to cut the shoulder area. I'm going to cut out the armhole, and then on the center area as well, you're going to cut your center front straight like this. So this is how I'm going to place it on my fabric to cut. So now we'll move straight to the back. For the back, you don't need to do too much. You can leave it as it is, as your regular center back. If you want to change the neckline, you can change it as well. So this is the pattern that I have for the front. If you bring out the facing, this is what it looks like. So for the back, this is my back pattern. The only thing I'm changing is my neckline. So I want the neckline to be like a deep V or U neckline at the back. So this is the neckline that I had before. So from my shoulder area, I'm going to mark around 10 inches. Like I said, I want it to be deep. So here I'm marking 10 inches, and I'm using zipper for mine. That's why I have a zipper allowance there. So the one on the thumbnail, button was used, so I don't want to use button. I'm just going to use zipper for here and the skirt. So here now I'm going to reconnect it to my shoulder point, and then I'm going to take my scissors, and then I'll cut out this neckline. Okay, so this is what my back looks like now. So I'm going to be using this satin fabric, this Duchess fabric for this tutorial. So I'll go ahead now and cut them on my fabric. So for the skirt, we're going to remember we have cut out the upper part, and the half length that I used for the upper part is 17 inches. So now we're going to do the calculation for the skirt. So I want the dress to be total, the full length of the dress, I want it to be around 45 inches. Remember we have used 17 for the half length, so it means the skirt length will be 45 minus 17, and that's 28 inches. So that's the total length that we're going to be working with for our skirt. So this skirt is in 3 parts. Okay, the skirt is going to be in 3 parts. Is an overlap skirt, so I'm just going to use this small one to explain it to us. So it's going to be a 180-degree flare. That's a half circle flare. If you open this one out now, you will see that it's a half circle flare, but we're not going to cut it directly like this. We are going to be cutting them in parts because it has an overlap in front, it has the one that has a flange and all of that. So now this is just an example of what we are cutting. This is the front and this is the back. So like I said, we are going to cut it separately. I'm going to cut out the back first. So to get the back now, I will need my waist measurement. The total waist measurement that I'm working with is 35 inches. So if I want to get my back from this, it means I'll have to divide this 35 inches by 2, so that I will be working with just my back waist measurement. 35 divided by 2 is going to give me 17.5 inches. So that is the waist, the radius that I'm going to work with for my back. So now to know the radius for the back radius for the waist, what I'm going to do now is to add 2 inches to this 17.5 because of my zipper allowance. Then whatever I have, I'm going to divide it by 3.142. This is a constant for getting the radius of a 180-degree flare. Okay, so now if I do this now, this gives me about 6.2. So that is the radius for my back, for cutting this back part. So the radius is 6.2 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to fold my fabric. The radius is going to be 6.2 and the length is going to be this 28 inches. I hope you understand that. So now I have folded my fabric. So now this is how I folded the fabric. I folded, assuming this is my fabric, I just folded it in a triangular form like this once, because I want to cut like 90 degrees. Remember I said everything here is 180 degree, both the front and the back. 180, that's half circle. So now I'm cutting just the back, and that is like cutting 90 degree. So because of that, remember I used the 180 degree measurement. That's the 3.142 to divide it, and this gave me 6.2. So now to get my actual waist measurement, I'm just going to multiply this 6.2 by 2, and that's going to give me around 12.4. That is what I'm going to use as my radius. That's what I'm going to use to mark my radius. So from here, please don't get confused. I'm just going to mark the 12.4 from the tip here. I'll mark it all around, which is what I have done. So it is important that you do this, so that what you just want to achieve by the time you are done with this is your measurement, half of your waist measurement. So now I'm still marking this now, and I'll connect it to check. So when I connect all of this together now, remember my waist measurement is 17.5 plus 2 inches, that's 19.5. So I'll just place my ruler. So if you don't want to work with this measurement, you don't want to start dividing and everything, after folding your fabric like this, just make sure that what you have here is up to half of your waist measurement for the back. So here I'm just checking what I have, and here I have about 9 inches thereabout. So if you multiply that by 2, is going to give me 18 point something, which is okay for me. So just make sure that what you have here is up to half of your waist measurement. So once you have your radius, the next thing now is to mark your length, your skirt length, which is 28 inches from the radius area here. So I have connected it and cut it out. You can see this is the back and this is the waistline of the back. So this is just half of my 37 inches waistline, 35 inches waistline. Okay, so you can see I have 19 and a half, which is exactly what I need, 19 and a half. So this is my back. So now we are going to move to the front. Like I said, the front has an overlap. So this is the front. So depending on how much you want it to overlap, I want it to overlap completely on my waistline. So this simply means that I'm going to cut like 2 of these. So one side is going to overlap while the other side is going to have like a ruffle flange on this side. Okay, so I'm going to explain how everything works. So the first side of the flare, okay, the first one, that's what I'm going to cut first. The waistline, the radius is going to remain the same because I said I want it to wrap completely. But for that first one, it has like a flange on the hem. So the flange is going to be like 5 to 6 inches long depending on what you want, which means that I'm going to be deducting that flange. Okay, so first side, front length, now for the first side is going to decrease. Remember, the skirt length is actually 28 inches. I said I want it to have like 6 inches flange. So if I deduct 28 from 6, I'm going to be left with 22 inches. So that is what the total length for this first flare in front is going to be. I'll go ahead and cut out the same flare that I cut for the back, same radius, because it's still going to be on the total front waist that I have. So it's going to be the same radius, but the length is going to be 22 inches. So after cutting it out now, after cutting out the 22 by the radius, I'm going to, like I said, it's going to overlap. So from one side of the waistline like this, I'm going to connect like this and then cut it out. Let me cut out the flare first and then we'll move from there. So I'll cut out the radius of 6.2 times 2 for my radius because I'm folding in angle 90, and then the length is going to be 22 inches. So I have cut it out. Now you can see that the waistline is my front, my total front waistline. Okay, that's 17.5 inches including allowance that I'm going to use to sew the side, and then the length is just 22 inches. You can see that it's not long. So you choose the side that you want that overlap to be. Okay, you choose it because of the right side. You don't want to make mistakes. So for me, this is how I'm going to be placing it on my body. So I want it to be on this side. So what I'll do now is from the hem area, I'm going to curve it just like this, and I'm going to curve it to the waist, up to the waist of the other side. When I cut it out now, you will see what I have done. So from here now, I'm just going to cut from this waistline and then I will curve. The fabric is not so strong, so I'm just taking my time to cut it. So I have cut it out. You can see, I hope you can see it. This is my waistline. So from there I just connected this all the way to the hem. So now this chenille shape that I have here, remember, it's not my full length. This is just 22 inches. So now I will measure the hem all around. Okay, and I'll use that to cut out a flange of 6 inches that I deducted from my actual measurement. This is about, I think, 50 inches. So I'll cut it out now and then cut out a flange that is 6 inches long, and the width is going to be 60 inches, and then I'm going to sew to the hem of the front. So this is the waistline. Please don't get confused. So I can just notch the center part. So now we have done one side of the front. The next thing now is to do the other side that is going to lap. That is going to lap on this one. For that other side, it has a ruffle. So remember, this is the first flange, this is the first flare for the front. So for the second flare for the front, that's the one that has a ruffle. The actual length is 28. So to create that extra ruffle and extra fullness, is going to be on the hip area. So to create that extra fullness, depending on how full you want it to be, you can add 10 to 15 inches to this length. Okay, so if I add 10 inches to this, I'll have 38 inches. I'm just going to approximate this to 40, which means I'm adding 12 inches to it. So now when you want to cut the flange for this, the flare for this one, the radius is going to remain the same, but the length now is going to change. So I'm going to work with that same radius that I used for these ones, but the length now I will make it 40 inches. So I'll cut that as well. So I have cut out the other parts of the front, the long part, the 40 inches length. You can see how long it is. We are going to ruffle it back to our measurement. So like I said, this is an overlap skirt. So just like we did for the first side of the front that we connected the overlap, I'm going to do the same thing to this as well. So from one end of the waistline, I'm going to connect and curve like this to the other end, just like I did for the first one. So I have connected this from here now. The top is not so visible, so I'm going to cut it out. By the time I cut it, we'll see it's better. So I've connected it and cut it out. You can see my chalk marking. Okay, so on my paper, what I am doing is just connecting. Okay, assuming this is my flare now, so from one end of the waist, this is the waistline, remember? So from one end of the waistline, I'll just connect like this. So like I said on the paper, assuming this is your flare, all you just need to do, from one end you connect like this. Remember, they are both full front and they are going to be overlapping, so you are going to cut like this. That's what I did for the long one. And for the short one, remember, it has flare, so simply just like I did, this is going to come from the other hand like this, and then you're going to connect like this as well. So that's what I am doing. So the next thing now is to add the drapes. Remember, this has an excess of 12 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and drape it. So what I'm going to do first is to note the midpoint. So I'll fold the waist and notch the midpoint, which is here. So depending on where you want the ruffles to be placed, from the midpoint you can measure from 2 to 3 inches. Okay, and once you get that point now, I'm going to gather it back to what I have. Remember, my actual length is 28 and I have 40 inches here. So I'll gather this on this ruffle part, as well as the hip line, as well as the side seam. I'll gather both of them. So just make sure that whatever gathering you are doing, make sure that it aligns just like this, and do not let your gathering exceed your hip bone. Okay, that's your hip line. So from my waist now, my hip bone is around 8 to 9 inches. So all the gathering that I'm doing, I'm not going to let it exceed this. So I'll gather and I'll make sure that it does not exceed my hip bone, which is 9 inches. So I'll do this on the side and do this on the center part as well. So I have gathered it. You can see this is the side and this is the center. So you just gather, you can gather the side first so that you follow the drape to know how you gather the center part. So this side now, you're supposed to hem it, but I want to wear it to see how it is, because it does not have lining, so I can still trim it or leave it as it is. So now this is the first side of the front, this is the second side of the front. So the second side, remember I said I'm going to add a flounce to it. So I just measured it. It measures about 15 inches, and I used that to cut out like a small flare, and then I added small pleats to it like that. So this is the waistline. It is going to be underneath like this, and then this one that has drapes is going to be on top of it. So because I've notched my center point, it's going to guide me on where I'm going to place it. So you can see, so here I'm just going to sew it down from the waistline. By that time I will try and fold in this place because it has to be neat. So I'll sew it down from here up to where the gather stops. Okay, and then I'm going to sew it down on the waistline as well. So this is just to prepare it to sew to the upper part. That's the half length area. So here you can see that the flare that I added is poking out here. So in order to stop this, you can see how it's coming out. So I'm just going to, from here, I'm going to grab my scissors, and then I will trim it down a little bit on the side. So this one now, so that it's not going to be coming out like that, I'll just trim it off like this so that it can blend well. So now that is it about the skirt. That's the major part of the skirt. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the two sides of the front together so that they can overlap like this now, and then we'll work on the upper part. So now for the upper part, you can see I have gone ahead to cut it. This is the front and I put my fabric on fold on bias so that it can drape well. Remember, it's a cowl neckline, so I'm detaching it like this. And I have, before you detach it, you must have marked those points. Remember, we are going to place them together. Okay, we are going to place this back to form what we need. So I've notched those points now, and this is what it looks like. So for my facing, remember my facing is together with it, but my fabric was not enough, so I just had to join to my facing. I'll just press it down. So this is what the shoulder is going to look like now. You can see the drapes that we have forming once the shoulder is back to normal. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and start pleating them together. Okay, I'll start taking my pleats. Remember, I notched it, so you can see I have 3 pleats on each of the shoulder. So I'll go ahead and pleat it now. So I have pinned it, and this is what it looks like. You can see all the fullness that we have on the shoulder area, and you can see that on the waistline it is still maintaining its original measurement. So this is the back. I have also cut the back as well. So for the back, I cut out my facing for the back because I did not cut it together with the fabric like I did for the front. So this is the 2 back pieces, and these are my facing. Because this fabric is very stretchy, I decided to add interfacing. I decided to add stay to the facing so that it can stabilize it a little bit for me. So if you look at the thumbnail, this design has like a rope on the neckline area. So I have made this rope. I'm going to cut it into 2. You can make your rope as long as you want. So I'll suspend the rope in between the facing and the main fabric like this, so that by the time I turn it, the rope will also be turned as well. So I'll go ahead and do this now, and I'm going to sew the shoulder of the front as well. So after this, I'm going to turn them on the shoulder area. I have turned the back, as you can see, and this is the rope suspended. So this is the other one. It is also turned. So here I'm just going to use my hemming gun to iron it down, or you can just hem it and top stitch on it. Okay, so this is the front. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join the shoulders together, front and back. Okay, I'll place it on the shoulder. You can see that it's the same thing because we have pleated it back, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew it in. So I'll put the lining as well, and then I'm going to sew everything in neatly and sew it by the side before joining the skirt. So you can see that I have joined the shoulders together. You can see, so this is the front and this is the back. This is the other shoulder, it is joined as well. So you can join the side, or you sew your skirt together with it before you join the side. This is what it looks like currently. So now I want to join my skirt. This is the front skirt. I have joined the overlap. You can see the overlap area underneath, and then I just sewed it on that place where I gathered. You can see my seam line here, and I also held it together on the waistline just to make it one piece like this. So this is what it looks like here. You can see the overlap that we have going on underneath like that. So here on this part that you ruffled, please make sure that you keep it inside like this. You're going to hem it, but I want to try it on like I said before I do that. You're not going to sew it together with your waistline. So I'll fold it in like this, and then I'm going to bring in my front and go ahead to join it on the waist like this. Okay, so you sew it down. So for the back, I'm going to bring in the back that I cut. Remember, that was the first part we cut. So now I will slash it into 2 because of the zipper, and then I'm going to sew it to each side of the back as well before joining it by this side. So I have gone ahead to join the side seam together after joining my upper part to the skirt. So you can see the ruffle that we have there, and I hemmed the ruffle as well. So all you just need to do is to either weave all the hem, or you hem it inside like this. I just fold mine twice and I hemmed it. So you just iron it so that it can relax well. So on the side, I just fixed this waist belt. This is going to help you snatch the waist even more. So it is not compulsory, but I just decided to fix waist belts on my side. And then on the back, I fixed a zipper. I don't have the color of this zipper right now, and I want to finish this dress, so I just fixed this black zipper. I'm still going to change it later, but it's an invisible zipper, so it makes it easy for me to wear it with it because it's not going to show. So that is all I have done to this dress. Now I'm going to put it on the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like.